SAG Foundation is doing is enormously important. From the up-and-coming actors to the veterans like myself, the foundation is here to help all of us.
As fellow artists, we've all been there. It's crucial that we remember where we came from and help out however we can.
For over 25 years, the SAG Foundation has been the industry's best-kept secret, and we're out to change that.
As natural storytellers, it's great that we have the opportunity to give back through the children's literacy programs.
A disaster like Sandy really brings it home with how crucial the SAG Foundation is. Their donation drive helped so many people in need.
The seminars and workshops are crucial. Working together is what makes us better.
The SAG Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies solely on donations to keep these important programs free for everyone.
The SAG Foundation can't do it alone. We need you.
If you need help, ask.
If you can help, give.
We're all in this together.
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 Together, everyone benefits.
Join the cause.
Act now.
Good evening once again, guys. My name is Dennis Baker, the Life Raft Program Director. Thanks you all for coming. Thanks for the people watching the live stream. One in-house announcement I forgot to say is that due to some casting directors letting us know that people were at their cars at the end of the events, we are now have a new policy for casting director events. That's not a good thing. You guys, we need you to stay in your seat. We're going to escort them out, and then once they have left the room, we'll let you guys go. And we ask that if you see them downstairs, you do not actually, you maybe say hi as you're walking by, but you do not go to their cars. You do not engage them, because we need this to be a safe place for all our panelists, so they come back. Make sense? The laughing I will take as an agreement and a yes that we will all do that. So. Thank you. So hang out at your seat while they leave at the end of the event. Thanks, guys. A couple things. We are on all these social media websites, Facebook, Twitter. One that I always want to tell everyone about is YouTube, youtube.com/SAG Foundation. The live stream can be watched there. Also, at the end of the live streams, it's automatically archived at the YouTube page. So if you missed something they said tonight, you didn't write it down, you can go home, watch it, go to where that's at. Also, we would love for you to share it because we are a national organization, so it's a great thing to share out not only to locals, but to people in Atlanta and New Orleans and friends in New York and so on and so forth. So we ask you that you share those videos. We have archived of over 2 years of panels, so it's a huge actor resource. It is all free. It's free to even non-members on the YouTube page, so share it with everyone. And we ask you that you use that, engage with that, because it's there for you guys. Lastly, we are a nonprofit. That means as a nonprofit, we are not tied with SAG-AFTRA, which means we do not get your grants, we do not get your dues, we do not get your initiation fees. Let me repeat that for the new people in the house. We do not get your dues, we do not get your initiation fees, we simply function on grants and donations. A way to think about this is every time you're at a Life Raft, camp, or conversation event, that's $17 out of SAG Foundation pocket. So if you go to a lot of events, that adds up pretty quickly. So a way to think about it is if you can chip in $5 a month, maybe $10 a month, it is the best deal in town that I know of as an actor. So think about it that way. There's a donate button on the website. Also, we do financial assistance. If you are in need and you need help with rent or things like that, give the office a call. There's a process with that, but we can get that going with you. And also know when you donate money, the person next to you might be helping pay their phone bill or pay some rent to keep them going, because we all know as actors, we ebb and flow with work. And so we try to be a community and help each other out. So thank you guys. Thanks for coming. We're going to get started, and let's give a hand to our moderator, Michael Bofshever.
Hey guys, good evening. My name is Michael Bofshever, and I am honored to be here tonight with these three fabulous casting people. To our live stream audience around the country, welcome. We're a packed house here in Los Angeles. Tonight is a really interesting, exciting evening for me because I have been cast by all three of these beautiful people up here, and I played Mr. Pinkman on Breaking Bad. So I have, thank you. So I have some firsthand knowledge of part of this process. So let's begin. Martin Scorsese, Elia Kazan have said that 90% of making a film, or we could say television, is in the casting. So would all of you, first, I forgot.
Hi,
Introduce
I'm
yourselves.
Sharon Bialy. Hi, Sherry Thomas.
Shawn Dawson.
So my bad. So why don't we start here and discuss for Breaking Bad the initial meeting with Vince Gilligan, if there was an initial meeting with Vince, to discuss about how he wanted to cast his show.
Well, this story has been told a couple of times, but when we sat down with Vince to discuss, we started with Walter White, we said, you're not going to believe this, but we have an idea that's a little outside of the box. Bryan Cranston. We just saw him. He came in for us because we did the casting for La Jolla Playhouse. We still do once in a while, and we were casting the world premiere of Aaron Sorkin's The Farnsworth Invention. Is that correct? Correct. And Bryan came in to read and blew us away. Sorkin's language is difficult. It's hard, and he did a superb job. Didn't get the job, but we couldn't stop talking about it.
And looked nothing like he did as the dad on Malcolm in the Middle, to the point where I went in and I said, I don't know who's in the waiting room. Somebody's out there, and I don't know who it is. He's not on the list. It's not Bryan Cranston.
Right.
And it was.
And Vince Gilligan said, by golly gee, you won't believe this, but that's who I want. He said that Bryan had done an episode of The X-Files 5 years prior, and Vince couldn't forget him, how good he was and how different he was. And it was a meeting of the minds, and then you had to go ahead and convince a studio and a network that the dad from Malcolm in the Middle was the perfect guy to star in their drama about crystal meth and Breaking Bad.
Did Vince have some backups, plan B?
Well, as part of the process in any casting for a lead role at a network, you have to come up with a list of names, and because it was such a fantastic role, it made sense that the network wanted to explore some star names. So we did that exploration as requested, but Vince... simultaneously, but Vince really felt passionately about it, and to the credit of AMC and Sony, they said, okay, that was a huge roll of the dice, huge.
So let's jump over to Dexter. Did Michael C. Hall, was he brought to you? Did you bring him to them? How did that come about?
That worked out because of the relationship that Bob Greenblatt had with Michael from 6 Feet Under, because Bob was the executive producer of that show. I actually came on and did the series, not the pilot. So I didn't have to be creative in our meeting. I just had to be likable.
Is it different for any one of you to cast a pilot from the beginning? And what is that difference between casting a pilot and then as the series goes on?
In terms of if you don't cast the pilot and then you cast the series? I think it depends. When you cast a pilot, it's your baby. You are really, having a child and putting the pieces together, and you're very, very, very close to it. When you don't cast the pilot and they ask you to come on for the series, you have to like it. And then I think as time goes on, it really, look, you're doing a great job from day one anyway, but you become more passionate about it.
Yeah, because there's also, when you go through casting a pilot, you really create a bond with the actors that you're testing. Then to be able to share in the excitement of, they've got the role. Am I not picking up very well?
I don't hear as if the microphone is on.
So much better.
Wondering why you weren't getting any laughs previously?
I was. I know it's early, but come on. But no, you really do create such a special bond with these people, because it is such a stressful time and people's hopes, and they get the role, and then the pilot gets picked up, and then you go on to the series, and it's so exciting for them, and it's so exciting for you. So if you're lucky enough to do a pilot that gets picked up and you stay on the series and you keep going, that's fantastic. When you go on to something that's been already picked up and you join a series, it is a little different. You don't quite have the relationships with some of the series regulars because you don't necessarily spend a lot of time with them. Even if it's a show that shoots in town, I would see my series regulars every 8 days at the table reads. which a lot of casting people don't necessarily go to the table reads, but we went to every single one of them. So at least I got to be able to, get some good relationships out of that. But, it's, either way, it's your baby. You put so much, just like for actors, you put so much time and sweat and stress into creating something. And I was thinking about this during the past week. You guys would know this as well. Because we've both had season finales or series finales that have been very applauded and very disliked by people. And I mean, it is your family. After doing 8 years of a show, I love how people that come up and have to give you their personal critique. And you do take it a little personally. I sat there and sort of considered it's the same thing as someone walks up and goes, "Oh, you know what? I met your girlfriend. I figured she'd be better looking, and she really didn't have much of a personality, but she seemed okay."
So, in Breaking Bad, discuss for all of us your relationship with Vince as he plotted out after he had thought of Bryan, and you guys had thought of Bryan, how the rest of the cast was put together. Yes.
Really, process. We started auditioning people and bringing people to Vince and narrowing down who the choices would be that we would test. Funny, I was going back through my notes, and Betsy had originally read for Anna Gunn's part. And he liked her so much and said, bring her back for Marie, and the rest is history. And what is also very well publicized was we had been trying to get Anna in, and she had just had a baby and not feeling well, and Sharon called her at home and said, you got to read the script now, and you need to get in here now. I don't care how sick you are. And she said, okay. And,
So discuss...
Aaron Paul, same thing, came in and read and tested, all of them.
Discuss for us what the give and take it is after an actor goes in on these shows and auditions for this pilot, and Vince gives feedback, or you discuss, without having to name names, as to what that process is like, so actors who are here may have a greater understanding of what goes on as to why someone is cast or not.
Secrets.
Give them up, then.
It depends on what the producer runs, how they run the session, or how the casting director runs the session. But we try not to talk about every actor after they leave, just to have a momentum going. And it's very interesting then at the end of your 2-hour, 3-hour session, 4-hour, what sticks with you. On Breaking Bad, we were so in agreement with Vince's aesthetic that it wasn't easy, but it all made sense to us. We responded to the same people, so it wasn't as if we had to fight Vince for the actor that we loved.
Would you discuss as a casting director when you would fight for an actor that you believe is really right for the part, and perhaps someone on the other side doesn't?
I have a producer that I work with off and on for the last 12 years who refers to it as, uh-oh, Shawn's on his soapbox. Because I will sit there.
I think it's hilarious. Mine is the only one that
works. We are having a microphone problem.
You win. Okay, God. Okay, matter. No, I have a producer that jokes that I'm on my soapbox, because I'll just look at him and go, really, you realize that you're making the wrong decision by not going with this person. And, it's one of those things when you have a relationship with someone for so long, you really can give your opinion and they listen to it. And, every time that I've really sort of pushed the fact of, you really need to take a second look at this person because I think this is the person for the role, that's the person that we go with, and I get a thank you afterwards.
Want to pick up on that at all?
I think also it's quite often from the studios and the networks, whoever is behind. And Sharon and I have both had arguments, passionate discussions with studios and networks. And what's great is when they really listen to what you're saying, they review everything, and then they call you after production is over and they say you were absolutely right. You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling.
So in...
I just want to speak to
please.
something because I believe you're probably all actors here. But one of the jobs that the casting... One of the jobs... I'm going to do both. One of the jobs the casting director has is to really know the body of an actor's work, so that on that day that you come in, if the 405 was really bad and you just didn't have your best audition, it's our job to know the body of your work so that we can speak to not just what you did those 10 minutes in the room. And that's why it isn't like one audition that's going to make it for an actor. It's the body of work that you have, or the accumulation of good auditions or good work, whether it be on stage, on YouTube, in film or TV, that we will, you know, make sure that we know so that we can speak to that when we really believe the actor's right for the role and they blow the audition.
Discuss in Breaking Bad casting RJ. Was that something that was in the script, and where and how did he was found?
We did a national search for someone with cerebral palsy. That is how Vince Gilligan wrote the role and insisted that we use an actor with cerebral palsy. So we contacted CP foundations all over the country. We read quite a number of actors, and part of the biggest discussion was how disabled the actor could be and how what that would mean, how you would understand it. And there were certain actors that Vince was really interested in, and it was difficult to understand them. We fell in love with RJ, and he was 14 when he started on the show. And Vince's concern at the time was that he could speak, he could walk, and
he was gorgeous.
What we spoke to was his struggle his entire life, being in therapy from the time he was 2 years old, and how hard and how much work it took him to get to the point where he could walk, where he could speak so people could understand. So it was very easy.
That is such a touching story.
Yeah,
It
was easy for him to go back, you know, and Vince was very sensitive to RJ and said, do you mind using the crutches, because this is what I had in mind, and he didn't mind at all.
Having worked and talked to Vince, he's a remarkable guy, and that for him to want to have a person with a disability in the show, as well as for both of these shows, and I think we should discuss that as well, the multi-ethnic ethnicity of the cast, I think is a great comment on the people that were making these programs. Talk about the ethnicity, I mean, in Dexter, being in Miami, and the Latino population, and how that was all brought into your ballpark.
Well, I think that's definitely, when you're sitting there looking at casting something, you really have to look at where it is that it shoots. If you're shooting a show taking place in Albuquerque, a show taking place in Fargo, you have to take that into account. Miami is not just Latino. It's really getting the flavor of the people down there, because we had a situation season 2 when we were looking for Lila. And I brought Jamie Murray in, who I adore, and she came in and she had moved here like a week beforehand. And she came in and did her American accent. And it just didn't have the flavor of the character that she had when she did the British. And we got done seeing everybody, and we were talking about it and saying, well, she was just so interesting. He goes, but I don't know that we could go British for it. And the thing is, I said, there are no British people in Miami. And they sort of went, you're right. So it's getting that whole sort of, whatever the town is. But it was very challenging having a cast that, from the guest leads to all the one-liners, really sort of hitting the Latino, the African-American, trying to keep it true to what the population is down there and who works in these jobs.
Great. Talk about casting in Albuquerque, how much involvement for local actors there, and how that was all balanced between Los Angeles and Albuquerque, New Mexico.
They beat us on those meth heads every time. No, we had a very close relationship with Sherry Rhodes, who passed away, who was the original local casting director. Her assistant was Kira Arai, who took over the second season, I think, or second or third. And we worked really closely with her, and she's fantastic. And actually, the actors in Albuquerque were a huge part of the success of Breaking Bad, and we used a lot of local actors, and the authenticity was great. You know, a lot of times when we would try to cast cops here or some of the smaller roles, you know, everybody was so excited, and they came in and they acted up a storm, and that just wasn't Vince's style. He wanted to have somebody who people thought they were a cop in Albuquerque. So we had a lot of non-actors get cast because they were a cop in Albuquerque.
In Dexter, for all the Miami, they did some location shooting in Miami, or?
Well, we shot the pilot down there.
Right.
Then seasons 1 and 2, I guess season 1 we went down there for like 2 weeks and shot. But after that, everything was Long Beach.
Everything was Long Beach.
Everything was Long Beach. We sent a crew down there every year that did more establishing shots. But, yep, it was Long Beach.
That's tremendous.
And great for our economy.
Yes, exactly.
Show in Los Angeles.
Good for local talent. I think it's important, since we have you guys here tonight, as we're speaking about Breaking Bad and Dexter, but also let's talk a little bit about, as casting directors, some tidbits that you might be able to pass on to actors in coming in to audition for in the future for other projects, whether it's for you or for anyone, as to 1 or 2 things that you think an actor needs to do when they come in to audition, or perhaps 1 or 2 things that you see an actor is shooting themselves in the foot at and would love to tell them, and we can now speak about it in general terms.
They all keep looking at me. I think really it's hard because we're business partners, so it's really, we kind of have the same mind in a way. But it's really about the work, and not just really making it about the work. You know, what you want to do is come in and do a great job for us, so that if you're not right for that particular role, then we write a good note about you, and we remember you, and we want to bring you in for something else. And once you can sort of let go of the desperation of getting that job when you walk in the door, and just really just doing a good job, so we want to have you back, your life is going to be a lot easier.
If you have an opportunity to search on YouTube for Bryan Cranston's speech backstage at the Emmys, it's just fantastic. He said that 18 years ago, something clicked, and he decided to stop going in and trying to get a job and just go into the room and play as an actor, because that's what he wanted to be. So for that 10 minutes or that 5 minutes, he would get to play and be that character. And as soon as he let go of the pressure of getting the job, he started booking work. And I think it's some of the best advice I've ever heard.
Sorry, I just wanted to, in terms of shooting yourself in the foot, I think that one of the things is asking if we've said our thank yous and you did a great job and we'll see you later. Asking, do you need to see it again? Can I do, if we needed to, I think we would have asked it. And there's also the time and understanding where we'll discuss it and say, yes, let's give it another shot. But if we really have said, no, we're good, thank you so much, then that should be the sign for the exit door.
Would you like to touch on this?
I think 2 things. One, realize that when you're coming in for a casting director, that should be your easiest audition. I see so many people that come in that seem a little nervous or a little edgy, or, we're the easy ones. We're the ones that are looking for you to be good. We don't want to read 100 people to find 5 people that we want. We want to read 5 people that we love. When you have to test in front of the network in front of 40 people, then you can be nervous. But you know what? We're there to help you get a job. We're not there to try to keep you from getting a job. So, relax before you come into the room. Look at it as an experience, as something fun. You get to act. I always hear so many people say, oh, it's so hard to get into Ulrich, Dawson, Kritzer. Well, we're doing like 8 shows between the 5 of us. Casting at least 10 characters each show a week and seeing 20, 25 people. That's a lot of people. So obviously a lot of people are getting in the office. So
I'm not.
You remember this conversation we had. I don't
Thank you
forget
very
it.
much. You can go now.
There's the exit.
There's the exit. So really, when you get an audition, we know that there are so many people submitted every single breakdown that we put out. There are 1,500 to 2,500 people submitted for every single role. So if you're getting an audition, relish that fact that you have an audition. Mm-hmm. Enjoy it when you go in and read for the casting director, because you're making a relationship. That's the most important thing, I think, for actors and casting directors is if you're in this for the long term, Bryan, I've known you for,
Robert? Yes, Robert.
Looking at you saying Bryan. No, I've known you for 19 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. I
You know,
remember
and-
auditioning for you for Maloney.
For Maloney, yeah.
Right. That's in the early.
And you figure how many different shows, how many different times you've come in for me or for our office over the time. That's a relationship. We go through dating and marriages and children and divorce with so many actors because actors become our friends. So really sort of put that in your mind instead of, oh my God, am I going to get this role? Did I just fuck up? I'll be the first one to use the F-bomb.
Thank you.
We talked about this before.
We could all say it together.
Now I can do it.
Now you can do it.
But I'd like to speak to something about what Shawn said in the relationship, because it is so important. And using Breaking Bad as an example, the actors who became series regulars, Jonathan Banks, Mark Margolis, Bob Odenkirk, Giancarlo Esposito, Laura Fraser, there's one more, all started as a guest star. And at the time, they all came in and read. Bob Odenkirk's the only actor who got a straight offer because his name was Bob Odenkirk, so we did with Alpha, and he was the first one on the list, and Vince goes, that's perfect! But everybody came in and read, and to speak about relationships with the casting directors, at the time, Jonathan Banks, Giancarlo, they have a huge body of work, so of course their agent or manager are the first to say they're not going to read for a one-time guest star. And what we said was, trust us. Please have them come in and read. Tell them to trust us. And it wasn't the agent or the manager that trusted us. It was the actor. So,
Let's take a question from Colleen. Is Colleen here? Hi, Colleen, right in front of us. What was the most challenging character you had to cast, and why? We take a pause for a moment.
the waiter in season 5 of Breaking Bad.
Oh, is that in the Mexican restaurant?
Yes, that's
that
the
was
one.
such a funny scene.
Yes.
Tell us why. Do you guys know that scene? Right? Everybody, where there was this intense meeting of the minds.
What was the number?
We saw 57 actors.
57. And you guys saw it. And that's what it was. Except the dialogue was different because, we always did dummy sides.
So what did the 56 not do that 57
Nothing.
did do?
They were all wonderful. No, honestly, we laugh about it. It was towards the series finale, and Vince was working so hard to really nail that series finale. We decided that was where his stress came out. So we just kept saying, okay, I'm bringing in more people. And when we were done, he called and said, thank you so much. I know I was crazy. And we said, it's okay. It's the stress of the end of the season. It's okay.
Do you have a... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the cousins were really challenging. They were supposed to be... Yes. And Luis Mankato is an actor that we had known and cast on pretty much every show. that we've done so far. And he came in and he was great. And was it him that said he had a brother?
He said, do you have a brother?
Yeah.
Is that right?
And he did, who had never acted before, ever. So they gave Luis all the dialogue, and he just, rode along and had the time of his life, and now gets recognized everywhere he goes.
How about on
It was
Dexter?
easy, but...
How about on Dexter?
I would say the most challenging is anybody who had to be tortured.
Yeah.
Why is that?
What a fun show.
Oh, it's just...
Killing everyone on
I mean, those auditions of people really just ripping your heart out. But I think the most difficult, now looking back at it, was in season 1, Dexter's son, who was in the pool of his mother's blood.
Oh, yes.
Getting 3-year-olds to cry hysterically was the most painful thing I think I've ever had to do.
Now, in Dexter, I think something that was unique in the casting were characters like John Lithgow or Jimmy Smits. Would you discuss for us that process as to whether they came to you with the character written, or how that discussion went back and forth? And I mean, Lithgow was just so terrific on that.
And the most wonderful person in the world.
Yes, he's a great guy.
Well, I mean, our writers would start 6 months before we would start shooting, breaking the entire season. So I would come on usually a month before we actually started prep, to sort of look at all of our big roles for the season. And per the network, coming up with lists and talking to ideas and talking to agents and managers. I mean, my people were so, after 8 years, you really knew exactly what they wanted. So, season 1, you started really broad, and by season 8, I would just go, what about such and such? And they go, okay. So,
So
it's.
Talk about Lithgow in he being cast in Dexter.
Yeah. I remember John had to thank his wife and apologize to her because they were going on vacation. And we came to him, and it was a couple of weeks before we started shooting. And we originally got the word from his agent that he was really appreciative, but he and his wife were going to Europe, and he just couldn't do it. And they called back and they said, hold on, he's talking to his wife again. And they called back and said, you know what, he would like to do it, and he's apologized to his wife. And it would be a really good idea if your executive producer sent flowers to her, which they did.
Now, in Breaking Bad, season 1 was only 7 episodes because of the writer's strike. And the story is that Aaron was supposed to be killed off before the season was over. Discuss how that might have, that story behind that, and how, as the tone of the show changed, and I think this held true somewhat for Dexter as well, as the tone of the show changed, did casting change as well?
Well, yes, Vince had said that, in fact, even when we were at the network test, he leaned over and said, I'm going to kill him at the end of the season. And I remember I leaned over and said, not if he tests really well, you won't. But the truth is, Vince is brilliant. He really is. And it didn't take anybody telling him. He saw the chemistry in the pilot between Bryan and Aaron, and he knew then that...
And the work.
Yeah.
And just how good Aaron was.
Yeah. So he may have had that thought going in, but once he saw on the screen that chemistry and where that show could lie.
Did the tone of Dexter, do you feel, did it change in the seriousness of the crime, and does that affect in discussions on casting?
It didn't that much, I don't think. I think it changed a lot for the series regulars. Because Michael and Jennifer, who the show was really mainly about, they had such a transformation, both of their characters over the years.
And personally as well.
But I don't think that I think we maybe lightened up a little bit towards the end. You know, certainly Sam Underwood coming on this year, the young protege, definitely went for a little bit more humor than a lot of our people have had in the past. But I think that's where we tried to keep, you know, the straight and narrow was with the guests coming on.
So I'm going to take another question from someone here in the audience. Kim Yarborough. Hey, Kim. Kim asks from all of you, what was your biggest crisis or challenge that you can talk about during the run of this series? And what sticks out in your mind as an unusual moment and how you had to deal with it? Was there I mean, someone get cast?
Waiting for the next script. That was a crisis.
So,
because it was so good. It was like reading a book. When are you going to get the next chapter? So.
And did when you would get a new script, and there are a few new characters in it. Breaking Bad, I don't know as much as about Dexter, but Breaking Bad didn't have that many guest stars on it, did it?
They became series regulars, but
Right.
they didn't have as many guest stars. They had a lot of co-stars, I think.
Yeah. Did when you would get a new script, how does that process go in, all right, we have to cast the next episode?
Yeah, I think on any series, Breaking Bad and all of the series that we've done, and even features, you get the script, you go through it, you read it, you sort of do a script breakdown of any of the new characters that are not series regulars, and then you have what's called a concept call, and it is with the showrunner, the writer of the episode, and the director of the episode, and casting. And you really talk about every role and what they're looking for, and we will come up with prototypes to discuss on the call because it helps them visualize it. You know, generally they're writing with no one in mind, or they're writing with exactly the person in mind. So we want to give them a range in between. It's also our job to think outside the box. Well, if it's a man, could it be a woman? And from there...
Was there an example of that on Breaking Bad? Whether man or woman or...
Sharon tried.
Did you?
Yes, Sandy Martin you brought in.
Yeah.
What was that?
For the exterminate, the head of the exterminator company. Mm-hmm. And it was fantastic. And Vince said, that was interesting, but not quite how I saw it. Okay. But that's our job.
Right. Yeah. How about on Dexter? Was there a moment of crisis or challenge that you had to meet?
I think it was the end of season 4 when my showrunner called me and said, I just wanted to let you know that I'm leaving the show. You know, Clyde Phillips was an incredible person. He was an incredible writer, incredible producer, so great to work with. And that really hit me. You know, 4 years with someone and you're just sort of like, where's the show gonna go? You know, we brought on Chip Johannesson for a year, and then he went off to do other projects. And then they brought Scott Buck up, who had been an executive producer, writer from the very beginning, and he show ran the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. I think that was probably the biggest sort of shakeup.
What's it mean to everyone on stage to have been involved in two extraordinary, iconic television shows that for the last 5, 6, 7 years, 8 years that you've been on television, that, you know, Monday morning water cooler talk is about, you know, all the trade papers, magazines. I mean, it's become a bigger and bigger thing now, are analyzing the story and analyzing what the characters are doing. What's that mean to you?
Everybody has an opinion, but they don't have to share it.
Well, on Breaking Bad, that really didn't happen in the first couple of seasons. We were the little engine that could, or as Mrs. Pinkman said, that little myth show, I love that.
Where is Tess Harper?
So we didn't have that at the beginning. We were struggling to get people to come on to the show because, Mad Men hadn't aired when we were doing the pilot, so nobody knew what AMC was at the time. So even in the first season we did 7, and then there was a writer's strike and it hadn't aired. So we didn't really have that opportunity until the 4th and 5th season. And honestly, it's an amazing feeling. And the nicest part, I think, for Sherry and I is when actors come in and genuinely are enthusiastic about the show and our work, and it means a lot.
It does. I know that I wrote a fan letter to Vince, just saying I've been doing this for such a long time, but to have been involved in this show has meant so much to me. I've never done it before, but I just had to express my feelings about that. Here's a question from Eric. Eric Don? Hey, bud. Breaking Bad and Dexter are different in terms of budget and network accessibility, cable versus private or the networks. How does this affect casting talent? How does this affect casting? And a thanks.
For us, I think once the show started to air, people saw what the show was and what it was about. And we are on a very limited budget, given, that it's an AMC show, and the whole series was a very small budget. But we had a set rate, and if you wanted to come and play, then you wanted to come and play. It really was about just coming and doing good work. This was not going to be a money gig. And people wanted to do the show because of how good it was.
I think we were in the same situation because Showtime owned us outright. We didn't have a studio behind us. My producers were great for the fact of, even though for a lot of these people that came on and did the entire season as a recurring guest star, made top of show the entire season. And we just didn't break, unless you were the big name for the season, we didn't break top of show. But when it came to day players, it was great that, I could match quotes, unless it was ridiculous that Carol Kritzer had hired them in my office. We didn't have to tell, and I've worked on shows like that before where it's, everybody gets scale plus 10. Well, it's great to be able to be on a show that is successful and not have the day players get screwed.
Yep. I think one of the things that I hear as we've been having this discussion so far, for the actors here in front of us and those who are watching us, that casting directors are there to help you and to be friends. And as you were just saying, we're trying to get you as much money as is possible, or we're there to be advocating on your behalf and to feel that it's safe to come in and to play and to audition because you look good, then we look good. And I think actors need to know that you're not walking into an adversarial room. You're walking in and be, as you were just saying before, we don't want to spend, hours and hours and hours on an actor, having 50, 75 people for one role.
Something that was unique to, Breaking Bad, and honestly, we on the same thing on The Walking Dead, which we work on, we never, since the pilot, had a producer, director, or writer in the room with us. So it's just us and the actors. So I'm not going in for a pre-screen. Everybody is coming in for the casting director. And while we missed getting the immediate feedback from someone who's smarter than us and, can really help us, we got an opportunity to play with the actors. So you didn't just go in, do it once, and 7 people look at you and you walk out. We spent a long time with every actor. And we would do take after take after take. So what Vince saw was the best take, which is the same thing that you replicate on the set. So it became much more relaxing, I think, and he got to choose between 5 or 7 or 57, actors who that was their best take. And I thought that was really, it spoke to the level of the work that we were able to find from every actor that came on the show.
It was the same thing. After our first season, everything went to going on tape in my office. And it really was such a help for me and for the actors that you really could come in and, okay, that's not working, let's do it again, let's do it again, let's do it again. So that, an actor really feels like they've really got that chance to show themselves. And, then we have the choice of 3-4 different takes to show, to get you a job.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the thing, too. We're inviting you in to our home, essentially. I mean, our offices, for many of us, were there sometimes more than our homes.
Yeah.
So, we're inviting you in. We want you to succeed. We want you to do great. Again, we want you to do good work so that if it isn't right for this one, then we'll remember you for something else. It should be a very, very supportive environment. And I think that, all I've ever heard about your office was how great you are to actors. And I know that we really pride ourselves on making sure that, not only are we great to actors, but the other actors are great to actors in the waiting room. Because if I see something or hear something of somebody being nasty, off the list for me personally, because it should be supportive. You shouldn't be trying to psych each other out and all that nonsense. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, just don't wear a Yankee shirt into our office.
Or Cardinals right now.
Or no shirt?
No, that's welcome.
Depends on the role.
We've got a question here from, I think it's Shakti or... Is it? What is it? Shakti Shannon. What a great name. And this is for everyone. This is a really thoughtful question. What do you get out of giving your time and energy to this discussion on panels such as this one? And how does it add to the fulfillment of your life? Whoa. Let's all hold hands.
I mean, I'll start.
Sherry needed a night off from the kids.
When they said this was only going to be an hour and a half, I was thinking, oh, great. I told my husband it was 4 hours. I'm going to stay away from the babies. I'm going out drinking.
Margaritas later. You wanted to know, now you know.
Yeah.
No, seriously, I think Sherry and I both believe in giving back. And it's become part
and
of
she
your
loves
nature.
to teach. She's a fantastic, fantastic teacher. I mean, I started working for her, and now I'm her business partner. There you go, Ann Bialy. And, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but she's a fantastic teacher. And as, we kind of have been working with each other for so long, we still learn from each other. And, yeah.
I don't know, I don't think actors should have to pay for an audition. So I think if I really believe that, then I have to give back and so does Sherry. We have to give back at places like this because I think you can learn. Education is power, research is power, and I think as actors learn that they are part of the filmmaking process, which everybody forgets, it's an amazing feeling. You are a collaborator when you walk in the room of the filmmaking process. And I feel like if I can get that message out to people, our day, it's selfish, it's just good business. Our day is going to be better because everybody walking in the door is going to give something interesting, and it makes the day really fun.
Well, I also think if you're going to do casting, hey, you have to like people. And whether it's in auditions or whether it's, meeting people here or sharing with this, I think you have to have a certain mentality of being open and enjoying meeting, people from A to Z, meeting all different types of people. I think the most interesting, it's like, we're in Los Angeles. We see beautiful people all day long. I would rather see a great face. Mm-hmm. If I'm at the grocery store and I see someone who looks like they've just had a hard life or, that's the person that I really want to talk to because that person probably has so much that they can share. And I think as casting directors, that's where we grow because we need to learn more about people. We have to show people. We have to, we've all cast spelling shows before. I don't know, have you guys cast a spelling show? But it's like, it's getting back to the whole, casting for the area that you're in, is really finding true people to cast. like you said, all the meth addicts down in.
Yeah, we weren't invited back to spelling.
Picking up on that answer, for each of you, is there an actor that you discovered that kind of came out of nowhere that surprised you and has gone on that we would know about, and how that might have occurred?
Hundreds.
I have never had the experience of plucking somebody off the street, literally, who was not an actor, and discovered them. You know, I think that the agents and the managers have done a great job in presenting people to us and meeting. We may have given them their first job or their first job that made a difference, but in terms of walking down a street or being in a grocery store and saying, "Hey, you, I think you need to come with me," I have yet to have that experience. Well, I have had that experience, but I didn't cast them. It's for my own personal gratification.
Like I say, I think it's interesting when directors, say that, oh, well, when I found this actor for my film. Well, it's, they didn't discover that actor. We didn't discover that actor. It was an agent or a manager doing their job who, I won't say who the manager was or who the actor was, but the actor's gone on to be very successful and been on a bunch of shows, who was a young kid when she met him. She went to a location that one of her clients was shooting a film at, and she saw this kid who was an extra in the crowd and went up to him and said, "Are you wanting to be an actor?" And he said, "Yeah." And she thought he was so interesting looking, and she signed him. And I mean, he's had a fantastic career. And that's their job, to find great people and tell us about them. It's our job to take those people, find the right role for them, and take them to our people. And it's for them to realize that we're smart.
Exactly. Well,
I mean, you do sometimes find actors at an open call when you host an open call. I think, that you could say, but neither of us ever discovered that person. I think you give somebody their first big shot. Yeah.
For actors who are beginning, actors who are watching us from around the country and are struggling to get started, what's an advice for an actor in trying to meet a casting director? Not necessarily you guys, but if you were to go out on the road and meet with a group of actors, how do they create that relationship? How do they try to maintain it where they're not overstepping their bounds?
Well, as far as going out on the road to meet a bunch of people, I don't usually do that. Kind of odd. But as far as, the creating a relationship, I think it's just like any friendship. You click with somebody, whether it's, you are at a party and you meet someone, you become friends, or the person comes in and has the line, "Excuse me, ma'am," as a one-line co-star, sometimes you just click as a friend, and it's the same thing as regular life. You can't force a friendship. You can't force a relationship between a casting director and an actor. You can have a good working relationship with somebody, and enjoy seeing them every time that you bring them in, and how are things going. But, I think it's just like in regular life. You just create friendships with people, and that's why so many casting directors, a majority of our friends are actors that we've met through the process.
But speaking to the actors, the beginning actors who are perhaps watching this, don't discount the work in your local region. And I think when the mistake is actors come to Los Angeles too early, and if you're from New Orleans, the first thing we're going to do is look at your resume and see what you've worked on in New Orleans or what you've worked on in Atlanta. And I wouldn't discount the work there. First of all, there's more work in New Orleans and Atlanta than there is in Los Angeles. I would encourage actors to move there.
And get your SAG card there.
Yeah. And you can get your SAG card there. I think the regional casting directors do an amazing job. And that's how you meet a casting director in Los Angeles, because we're watching the local auditions. And we're watching who got cast and is doing the one-line role. We did a show called Detroit 187, and the wonderful Chicago casting director Claire Simon brought in an actor from Steppenwolf called Stephen Louis Grush. And he got a SAG card, and we just couldn't, we loved him. We loved his tape. We loved watching him. And we brought him in and cast him in a pilot that went to series. And that was his second job on television. So, you know, the casting directors in New York, Los Angeles, pay attention to what goes on regionally.
That's terrific to know. Okay, so let's take it.
I've never
Yes.
thought about that. Maybe people that are having a struggling time here might want to just move to Albuquerque or
Well,
New Orleans.
there are actors.
Build your resume and come back.
There are
after a
actors
year.
who move to New Orleans
Yes.
and don't
Yeah.
stop working.
Or get representation in Austin and New Orleans.
And they work local.
And they work local, exactly.
One word, Finn Cannon. Get to know them.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. I think, too, as an actor who is starting out, there needs to be an understanding of where you're at and really what you're ready for. I mean, everybody has a fantasy, an idea of what they want to be, but you know, since I have babies, you can't walk until you can crawl, and you can't run until you can walk. So you have to have a sense to learn, and to learn on set or to learn on stage, and you know, in those co-star roles. And then once you become familiar with that, then you hopefully grow into the next level and grow into the next level. I mean, I think all of us, there are very few people who come to LA, their first pilot season, and they book a series regular role. I mean, it's far and few between. It happens, but it's really hard work, and I think you have to be committed if you really want to be an actor. If you want to be a star, I think that's, you know, maybe what reality TV is for. You know, I mean, it's a very different thing.
So we just got a fresh question from Barbara Koval. Hey, Barbara. Barbara wants to know, the final episode of Dexter was chilling and heartbreaking. Can you discuss why Dexter put Deborah's body in the ocean at the end? Was it because he was the end of his rope and he had no other choice to lay her to rest? No. Good question.
The thing I love about our season finales is we only get partial scripts, so we know what's happened, but we don't actually see in the script what happens until we sit at the table read. And then even then, they won't necessarily tell us what some of the big secrets of the final episode is. I mean, I'm maybe in the minority who loved the finale, because I love the fact that Dexter finally realized that he needed to put himself into his own hell, you know, as you know, sort of his taking care of his sins. You know, everybody that he'd touched, he'd done harm to. You know, and, you know, looking at Deborah, you know, with her dying, she was a victim of him, and that's how he got rid of his victims. And I thought it was almost a beautiful thing of setting her free into the water. I don't know. I cried. I cried when I watched it.
What was, when did you know the ending of Breaking Bad?
We were smart enough because they also they redact it. In other words, they're you know, putting a magic marker on when you get the script, but they hadn't redacted all the outlines, and the Breaking Bad outlines are very specific. So they had redacted some and not others, so we were able to piece it together and know what was happening. But literally, we were sworn to secrecy. Sworn with a contract and an agreement, and we took it very seriously. You know, when I go to the farmer's market and wear my Breaking Bad hat, the guy said, "I'll give you mushrooms for a year if you tell me what's going to happen." You know,
What
shiitake mushrooms.
What kind? Oh,
No,
shiitake.
shiitake
I thought maybe
mushrooms. They're
magic
expensive.
mushrooms.
And, you know, we
Another
wouldn't do
period.
it.
Yeah. And I think that's the one hard thing for both of these shows and other shows that are like it, where, you know, with the age of the internet, you know, you can't put anything out there or it winds up on sites everywhere. You know, which means that when we send sides out to you, either they're wrong, that we've just created for you to come in and audition for something that could be sort of similar to it, or you get a page, you know, for the longest time, I just Sharpied out, you know, 99% of the page until I just finally realized, you know, I'm just going to cut and paste this whole stuff. But it means that you guys don't have much to work with. which is also great for the fact of us putting people on tape in our office, is that you can kind of come in and sort of give people a little bit more information than what, you can be posting through the services that everybody can see.
Let me follow up on that. Many times when an actor comes in, the people in the room will say, "Do you have any questions?" Is there a rule of thumb that you have on that? Because I know, as from the actor's point of view, sometimes.
I have a rule.
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't ask a question if you really have one, and don't ask them if you don't have one. If you don't have one, go, "No, I'm cool." And if you really have one, because you're confused, go ahead and ask.
But sometimes I think questions come from just wanting to connect. You're in our room, you've connected. You don't need to, make up conversation, I think.
And for myself, I always have it that actors can get a hold of me or agents can get a hold of me. There are a lot of things that you need to know before you get in that room. If something doesn't make sense, you're not going to be able to come in and just, on a wing and a prayer, come in and, get the right thing. People can always, I get so many emails from everybody. I tell agents, if something doesn't make sense, have your actor get a hold of me, whether it's through you or they can call my office, or I swear everybody in this town has my email address. If you can try to get that really important question answered before you get there, that would probably be better for you.
We just were casting a role for The Walking Dead in which, again, we can't give out any information, and so I'm not giving anything away. But literally, in lieu of asking, "Do you have any questions?" I would say, "I can't answer any questions. We're going to do it, and we'll just shape it to what we know that they want to see, the qualities that they're looking for in the character and what they need to see." So there are, again, going on tape, it really works and benefits you guys because we know exactly what needs to happen and we're shaping it.
In casting Robert Foster, right? Would you discuss, Robert was in the next to the last episode, Peter Gould's episode, on Breaking Bad. How that came about?
Yeah, that was a long, early seed because Vince loved him, and we knew at the beginning of the season that role was going to come into play. So that was one of the few roles we wrote an official list for Vince, and he really wanted Robert Forster. And it was really very interesting from an actor's point of view because the first episode, we didn't use him because we didn't have the budget that he was supposed to be in. He was the disappearer was the name of the character, and he was just going to be in the truck driving him away.
They're sitting on the side of the road and they pick him up.
We didn't have enough money to see his face, so we couldn't use him in that episode. And the next episode, I think he had 2 lines. So it was really about getting him on the phone to speak with Vince so that he would know what the character was going to be, how important it was going to be, because in the first episode he appeared, there would be almost nothing to do.
He was terrific.
And we had the same thing this year with Dari Ingolfsson. His first 3 episodes, everybody thought he was a co-star, and that's why we set it up that way. Because we just wanted to take our final bad person and just sort of slide them into the story. And I can't remember. I think he did Johnny Lee Miller's role when he auditioned. Because there was nothing, you're casting something a month before they're going to actually have a good scene. So you have to find something that has some meat and is going to be somewhat like the character so that the producers can see it.
That's why actors shouldn't count the lines. Now I'm going back to what was one of the most challenging roles to cast in Breaking Bad, and it was Tio, Mark Margolis, because we got the call from Vince to say it was a really, really important role. He needed a great actor with a great face. He's not going to have any lines, ever. And I need him to audition.
And it made sense.
Yeah. And when if you know the show, you see how important that role is. And he got nominated for an Emmy without saying a line, ever.
So Mark's a great guy. We worked on stage back in New York years ago. What was that audition? Was Mark the only one who came in to audition?
No, we had Mark self-tape in New York. I
Right.
had put Mark in a a movie for HBO that Jeremy Kagan directed. I just forgot the name of the movie, and his image and his work stayed with me. And I remember when Vince called, and I was like, I got it. I got the
we were
guy.
on the concept call.
On the concept call, you know.
So what did Mark do for that audition? Everybody know who Mark Margolis is. He's a great character actor. There you go. And a terrific fellow. And
He dinged the bell.
He dinged the bell. He acted it out. He had somebody reading the lines with him, and it was all in his face.
Yeah. That was before we had to become really private with material when everything was getting leaked. But it was, oh, come on, he's got to audition, really? I mean, just offer to the guy. He did this, he did that. And when the audition came in and you saw it, you went, oh, that's why he needed to. Just, it's the way Vince works, and it's brilliant.
yeah. All right, so we have another question that just came in, hot off the press, from Matt Berlin. Matt? Matt?
Online, San Francisco.
Oh, it's a San Francisco. Hey, Matt.
Hi, San Francisco.
How is San Francisco? What is the determination that certain roles get cast locally and what gets cast in Los Angeles? For example, are all co-stars cast locally?
Generally, co-stars are local, unless it's something that they don't think that they have.
Right.
You know, whether it's they don't know that their talent pool can support a certain role, or, you know, like we're looking in New Orleans right now, you know, there are so many things shooting down there, they may be so sparse on actors because everybody is working.
Some of it's financial, some of it's budget, and then, yes, size of role. But it's not necessarily always the co-stars. It really just depends on what the role is. And
Believe me, they would be very happy if they could cast every single role locally and save that money.
So money becomes a determining factor for...
A partial determining factor.
Right. Do we have a question here in the audience from someone who wants to raise their hand? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jonathan. I just wondered that you talked about not having a whole lot of information, to be able to give actors. So when you're shaping the audition, do you prefer to give actors a little bit of direction before they start, or you like to just see their first shot and then take it from there?
well, it's only certain.
Okay, for everyone and for Matt in San Francisco, when an actor had come in for these shows where information may be at a premium and they start to audition, would you stop them or let them finish and then start to make suggestions that you know where the character needs to go?
Yeah, it isn't every show. It's the special shows. And I think for us, we just kind of like to see where your instinct takes you, and then we shape it from there. Unless there's a really obvious question that you think that you have that is confusing, as Sharon would say, then of course we're happy to answer it and do it prior.
Or if you've had a couple of the auditions and everybody is getting the wrong take on it, because usually I like to see what someone brings first. But sometimes you just sort of go, here's something to put in your mind before you get started.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Rachel O'Mara, and just picking up on what you said earlier on about gender and a male role being cast as a female role, with the ratio being 1 to 3 in television and 1 to 4 men to women, how receptive do you find showrunners and writers to looking at, taxi driver could be, business whoever? How do you find that? Because the numbers have stayed the same for about 30 or 40 years.
So we have a question here from Rachel, who wants to know about in casting according to gender, where there are more men than women, or 3 to 1 in parts, how a show may be open to casting it written one way, and then let's put a woman in here, or let's make this an Asian American.
It depends on the showrunner. It really does. We have had great success with it at times, and other times, it's their show and they're completely closed off to it. I'm the most proud I am of Sherry when she recommended Shoshana Stern for a role on Jericho, and Shoshana's a deaf actress, and the role was not written at all for a deaf actress. And she brought it up, and they looked at her, and they go, all right. And she came in, and she got a series regular role out of it. And it wasn't not a series regular to start with, right?
No.
So
It made sense.
Yeah.
But I also think it depends on the showrunner, but it also depends on the casting director. Because we're reading what they're giving us, and there are some people that just are getting the job done, and it's out there. And then there are some that really want to, be creative with it and think, do more, go the next step.
And it also depends on the writer of the episode, because some of them are so focused that they see every role a particular way. It's an Asian woman that blah, blah, blah is a certain age, as opposed to some writers who write very vaguely. I think the most interesting sort of thing that happened along that line is I had a writer one time brought in all kinds of wonderful people for this role that was a grade school teacher. And everybody waited, and they liked this person, they liked that person. The writer said, well, everybody was good, but none of them looked like my fifth grade teacher. He had such an image of that character that he was writing in line. He wasn't responding to anybody because no one struck him as that person.
In the industry now, how much do you have an opportunity to try to cast also in terms of ethnicity?
I think you do have that opportunity, and certain studios really are encouraging it and demand it. I actually think Fox is fantastic about it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the numbers and the studies, if you put a person of color in a show, more people of color will watch the show. It's just a fact. So to me, I don't understand why all of the networks haven't figured that out. It's just a numbers game.
Or the rest of America.
Right. But it is getting better. I know Sherry and I did a pilot for A&E called Those Who Kill, and I had just been so taken with an actor that I had seen in another show named Omid Abtahi. And he's Middle Eastern, and I wanted to cast him as one of the detectives instead of another terrorist. And what we did, I got my research done before I presented his audition, which was fantastic, and learned that there was a huge Middle Eastern community in Pittsburgh. So when it would to come up that, well, Middle Eastern, a detective in Pittsburgh, we could say, yeah, there's a huge population there. And it actually didn't come up, which was great. Yeah.
Okay, so we have time for, yes, all the way in the back. Oh, there's a lot more questions. Yes, go ahead, ma'am. Hey, Jennifer. Okay. So let me pick up on this question, Jennifer. If someone submits a tape for an audition, I don't know how that may or may not have occurred, are you more than likely to see it, or depending on your time? How does that work?
Well, in our office, if we've requested it or we have cast so many actors off their tapes in their apartments or their hotel rooms. If you're the right person, you can get a job that way. On Breaking Bad, Laura Fraser, who played, what's the name of the character? Lydia.
Right.
She did it in her home in upstate New York, and we gave her notes, and she did it again. And then Vince gave her notes, and she did it again, and she got the job. And we saw wonderful people in the room, but she was the right person.
Are you seeing people recording themselves on their iPads
cell phones?
Or cell phones as well? And how do you like that shot to look if they're going to record themselves?
I think it should be from, your chest up. It's better if you can have a reader, although we have had many self-tapes come in where they've pre-recorded themselves and read opposite themselves. Push comes to shove, you got to do what you got to do. But we've cast a lot of people, series regulars-wise, off tape.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a funny story, what Sherry's speaking to. We were in New York. I saw Jemima Rupert on a Broadway show. She was her last weekend. She came in to read for us. loved her. I switched the role on her. She was going up to Toronto. I said, you got to do this like tomorrow. She has, 4 shows every weekend, right? And just willing to go for it. And she said, well, I'll do it in my hotel room. I said, well, who's going to read with you? And she said, I'll just call up room service.
But she ended up doing it herself. And she was fantastic in both roles.
That's a great story. Yes, sir.
The question is, are there any funny pre-rituals that you see beforehand? It's a really good question. I've changed my attitude towards that as I've gotten older. I really don't care what you do in the hallway or what you do beforehand. I used to care. I don't care anymore. All I care is what happens when we say rolling.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You have a story.
What's your name? So the question was that how do actors who may not have representation get in front of you?
I mean, I think that we get postcards. We get old-fashioned, postcards, headshots, and resumes in the mail every single day. And we go through mail, we go through all of our mail, our individual mail. And if it speaks to us, we do generals all the time.
I go to the theater. A lot of the actors who are doing theater are not represented. Yep. When we used to do La Jolla all the time, we had to do the open equity calls. I met Rob Nepper on an open equity call. Yeah, open call. That's how I met Rob Nepper.
Unfortunately, we were told that our time is finished here tonight.
But we're having so much fun.
I told you we would have a lot of fun. It would go by very quickly. Let's thank our guests for sharing their time and their experience for 2 iconic television shows, Breaking Bad and Dexter. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.